Chisel, one of their absolute classics, and a man who would have been bopping along in the background listening to it, because he sounds to me like a bit of a Cold Chisel fan. Anton Guinea, good morning to you.
Robert Cameron, massive Cold Chisel fan, mate. Flame trees.
Yeah, I picked you. I picked you as one of those. Hey, welcome back. It's always good to have you aboard. Love our chats. They normally start off on a sort of a sad note because you deal in a sad industry. You're a man who's suffered a workplace injury yourself. You put that hurt and pain into making life better for others. But something popped up on one of your media releases the other day, which makes perfectly good sense, but I hadn't considered it before. Workplace injuries really magnified at this time of year because, as we've talked about before, when you rush, when you're doing a job that has an element of danger, that danger increases quite largely. And I guess at this time of year, everyone's rushing to get things done by Christmas.
Oh, mate, absolutely, Robert. And the sad fact of life is that this comes from Victoria WorkSafe, 25%, 1/4 of all workplace fatalities happen in the months of November, December. And it's just this saddest time of year from a workplace fatality perspective, mate. Like imagine having someone in your family or even someone that you know that all of a sudden, you're coming into Christmas and their work schedule's on, or their leaders are putting the pressure on them to get work done before the break or whatever it happens to be. And it's always about pressure, and it's generally about leadership, as you know, because I bang on about leaders taking the lead, so to speak. But all of a sudden now you've got people heading to Christmas looking for a holiday, so they're not focused. They're not focused on their work, seriously. We have the lead into holiday where we sort of mentally check out a little bit before our holiday break comes up, and we're thinking about what prezzies to buy for our significant others or our family members. And then all of a sudden work pressure comes on and we make this mistake or we make a decision, Robert, that just leaves us injured or put in. And it's just a tragedy.
Anton, I see these situations divided into three sections, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I see of someone who's on wages and underemployed, they're under management direction. There's managers themselves that are under pressure to meet deadlines. And then in the middle, there's a combination of both, the self-employed who is working for himself and wanting to make sure that the family needs are met, and you get home for Christmas dinner and all the work's done, all your clients are happy. So is that fair to suggest they're the three main categories? And if so, which is the worst, if any?
Mate, look, honestly, they can all be as bad as each other. And I'll tell you why. You imagine, and I deal a lot with the construction industry, Robert. So, you imagine all of these people in construction, and I've literally got some back-to-back calls today talking to people, leaders in the construction industry, and I just got off a call with one, and you know what he said? Get this. This is like 10 minutes ago. This is hot off the press. He said, man, I have to push back sometimes. He said, we have clients that want to meet me, get this, on Christmas Day. I said, no. Yeah, we're cranking right up. He said, and he does tenders, this particular guy, tenders for work. So it's not even the work itself. This is the tender to do the work. And this year he's got a meeting on Christmas Eve to talk through a tender. And he said, look, he puts his foot down. I'm not meeting on Christmas Day. I'll meet on Christmas Eve. And that's the sort of pressure that leaders and workers are under in organisations. And then let's say the self-employed person, Robert, that's a good call. That was a good distinction to talk about the self-employed, the smaller tradesmen. I don't know what Geelong's like, Robert.
There's heaps of them, mate. They're all over the place.
I'm hearing you. We can't get a tradesman. We can't get an aircon put in. We can't get, a light put in by Lecky or any of these other trades, or a plumber. I'm trying to get a plumber to do a little bit of work because we've just moved offices. They're just flat strapped. They are seriously just next level busy at the moment, mate. And, with that, because they're smaller organisations, they don't have the money. They don't have the inclination even that the larger organisations have to keep their people safe. So, and then I another conversation recently was about a small plumbing business that had a first-year apprentice who, and that apprentice happened to be the son of a mate of mine, so I heard the story. And they were asking to do, I think it was concrete cutting or some really high dust cutting without a mask, and he got sick. and he got in trouble for it. He got in trouble for getting sick. And he since left that business over a safety concern, because that job was obviously, in inverted commas, had to get done fast. We're out on site, we haven't got safety gear, so we're just going to get it done.
Anton, I reckon you and I have been chatting for over 12 months, probably this might be 5 or 6 that we've talked about, and you've always had a positive note to say, well, yeah, things are getting better, people are more aware. I'm getting the sense that in this environment now with COVID and a lot of work has not been able to get done normally, so there's more pressure on business to meet deadlines. There's certainly more work coming through. Just driving around Geelong, just on building alone, renovations and new buildings inside suburban areas. We know the estates are growing, that's all happening, but inside the city we're seeing houses knocked down, new ones going up, renovations being done. It's a really active industry at the moment. Yeah. If there's more pressure on that to meet deadlines, and for some stupid reason Christmas is the ultimate deadline, everything has to be done by Christmas, it seems to me that we're not getting better. Yeah.
Oh, look, mate, and let me put a positive spin on it, because I don't want to be the negative, the naysayer. I just really what I'm trying to do is just highlight to people, hey, it's up to you. Stay strong, stay calm, stay focused, and stay safe is the message. There's just activity everywhere, Robert, and the positive spin would be leaders have the ability to make a difference, safety leadership, and what we're really talking about, Robert, here is leading under pressure, because there's pressure-packed times going into Christmas, and I did a webinar last week, and it was really about how leaders can look after their own mental health and their own ability to cope with all this. Because what we think about is, you and I talk a lot about the worker and the person, and we talked about the apprentice this morning, for example. I focus so much, mate, on leaders, and I just see the ability of leaders to change the way safety's done in businesses, and there's so many leaders stepping up now. You know, we did our 2-day resilience program this week for a heap of leaders, and how to build resilient teams and mentally healthy teams, right? And so the positive spin on all of this is really that leaders are in charge, leaders are in control, leaders have the ability, and guess what? There are a lot of leaders that are stepping up that are making a difference, but we probably just do need to, temper that with, hey, we're still seeing a lot of workplace injuries and incidents and fatalities at this time of year.
Another concerning report I read some time ago was that the almost stealing by stealth, if you like, extra hours out of employees, that there's a little bit more pressure and an extra hour here and a half hour there, and all for no pay. It's almost now an expectation that you're employed for 38 but you work 43 or 4, whatever the case may be. And again, that's putting more pressure on an individual, but it's also creating, if you look at it another way, it's wage theft. We know about that. That's been well spoken about. But it's creating a culture where there's an expectation from workers that businesses have to make certain profits, and that gap between is broadening. But in that gap too, it seems that workplace safety is one of the first victims.
Yeah, it is, Robert, isn't it? Like, when we expect people to do more than they're paid for, or when we, you and I are both probably a little bit old school that, if we're on wages or even if we're on salary and we do a bit extra, well, you know what? We would hope, fingers crossed that our organisation would look after us and would say, great, thanks, here's 3 extra hours paid for those 3 extra, or here's time off in lieu or something like that, right? And when that doesn't happen, when we see our organisations, let's say inverted commas, taking advantage of us, that adds another stressor.
Yep.
And you got to remember, Robert, hey, this is a stressful time of year for some families, because, there's families around Australia that struggle financially, and that Christmas is a really big deal for them. And so, they work extra hours, and there's this hope that they might get remunerated accordingly or treated differently, like whether it's another reward system, which is cool, and people appreciate that. We all like to be rewarded and recognised. But that's a really good point you make. The wage thefts an interesting one, and it doesn't just happen at, I guess, shop floor level. It sort of happens at all level in organisations, and it's sort of a badge of honour now for how many hours you work. And if you're in small business like I am, you know, all of the personal development is sleep less and work more. You know, and it's sort of a hard, and that the more stress we put on our bodies, the less better we perform, right? You and I both know that. And having some psych study, I'm really starting to unpack that and understand how the brain works and understanding how some of the neurotransmitters in our brains are affected by rest and stress and not enough sleep and overwork, and, you know, all those sorts of things. And our leaders and our employers have got the ability to positively influence some of that. And be a great employer.
An interesting concept, and it's probably a conversation for another day, but I'll throw the grenade in now. We have a view of unions, and we have a couple of very big, well-known ones in the building industry that I think set a very bad example, because I think they are too militant, if you like, and to that detriment then, the union movement has a bad name, and a lot of people in the smaller unions are not joining up, they're not becoming members, they don't see the advantage of it. But I think if unions took a stronger hold to be the negotiators between employers and employees, because to my way of thinking, that you've got this mass group of employees that while they're together, they're actually not really together, they're disjointed, they don't have a strong, powerful voice, and it's opened up this gap, if you like. Is it simply needing to have stronger union strength to open the discussions, or do organisations like yours in the future play a big part in fixing up this glaringly obvious gap?
Mate, it's a good call. Unions certainly have their place, and I'm going to say that I'm a union advocate at times. So I guess my caveat would be is at times I'm a real union advocate, because I think unions have their place. I think that that place is when safety is at risk. And when I say safety, Robert, I don't just mean physical safety. I'm talking psychological safety too, mate. You know, I think unions probably need to really start re-examining their role. And unions have the ability now to actually work more closely with organisations and leaders to actually support them, to not so much be an adversarial type, I don't know, creating these adversarial relationships, be more of an ally and actually step into what it is that they can do holistically, not just, we're going to get these people, you know, an extra $1.50 an hour. Like, I get that, and people will value that from their unions, but I think in this day and age, we're in 2021 now, I think we're expecting more from our unions than the Eureka Stockade, if you know what I mean. You know, it's unions, I think, probably are, I think you're right, in some parts of Australia, and I think, you know, some states, and potentially your state, might have more militant, let's use the word militant, unionism than other states. Whereas there's a lot of industries, particularly up here in Queensland, that unions aren't a big, strong part of the workplace, right, and the culture here. So, so in answer to your question, you know, what role are unions going to play moving forward? To me, I've always thought that they could be less adversarial and more aligned with the organisation in a way that helps the employees. I think we probably need to shift the narrative around unions, and I think we need to shift their role. And I think union delegates would disagree with me on that. They're probably more, you know, get in there and, you know, bash up the employer, or you know, we're going to get this or we're going to get that. Well, you know what? We teach communication, and there's so many more effective ways to do that.
I think that's my point, is that the idea of a union representing the staff and their stance is that we hate the employer. Well, that's ridiculous. They need to have mutual respect and make sure that everyone's happy, because everyone's got to be more productive. If you're happy in your workplace, you'll be more productive. If you're rewarded for what you do, you'll be more productive. And production-wise means surely that the employer will be making more money, his business will be running better if his staff are engaged. It seems pretty simple, but so many come at it from a different angle.
Mate, old habits die hard, Robert, right?
Yeah, they do indeed. Anton, thank you very, very much indeed. We've enjoyed your chats. I look forward to another one in 2022, or many more of them. But best wishes to you and all your family and your staff and all those people you represent for the festive season, and we'll get into it next year.
And thanks to all your amazing listeners for being with you and allowing you and I the ability to share our stories and to
good.
It's make a bit of a difference on them. Thanks heaps, Robert.
I keep telling people we're in a privileged position. We truly are. All the very best. Thanks again for your help. Anton Guinea from the Anton Guinea Group, looking after people in workplaces, and that's got to be